Thank you so much for being here today. First and foremost, quick apologies because I'm a little under the weather, so I sound a little rough, so forgive me if I cough periodically. But a little bit about me, I have been with Be the Change HR now over 4 years. I'm an HR consultant with about almost 18 years of experience now working in nonprofits, hospitality, and sports entertainment, and many, many other industries. So I'm very excited with you to share with some essential tools, some overall general knowledge, and of course, answer any questions that you may have. So we love being unconventional, be the change HR. So we're going to talk a little bit of why leaders sometimes get stuck. So most business owners, leaders, and HR professionals sometimes make two mistakes, either overcoaching serious issues or overcorrecting fixable ones. Both either damage or erode trust. You all know this very well, creating consistency across teams. The real risk really isn't the conversation or having too much of that conversation. It's setting the wrong precedent and exposing the organization on the legal side, and of course, impacting morale and the company dynamic. Everything from perception of unfairness, favoritism, to even a possible claim of discrimination because you treated one employee very differently than another can really impact an organization. So it's critical to be aware of these liabilities when you're coaching and or completing corrective action. We wanted to give you a few definitions just to start off. I'm sure you all know this, but we wanted to just give you a little bit of our perspective, how these come across, to be brief, concise, and hopefully efficient with our time. So coaching assumes capability and intent to be put to that are present specifically. This is about closing the gap. So basically, there's the assumption that this employee can be coached to improve their performance. Corrective action is a response to specific behavior instance that crosses the line, for lack of a better term, despite clarity. So the distinction matters because the message to the employee and the paper trail, super important, we'll talk about it in a little bit, are fundamentally different. So focus on the key distinctions. So example of coaching. Here's how to succeed. I'm going to be using my own name. So if there's any other Christina on the call, I apologize. But Christina, here's how to succeed in your position. Continue doing the documentation that I've mentioned to you. I need you to stop being late to meetings and, of course, begin being more vocal and participatory when you come into these meetings specifically. Corrective action example, very clear violation of policy. Christina, you're in violation of a specific code of conduct. You essentially, again, cross that line. It's because of repeated offenses that will result in further disciplinary action up to and including termination. So we wanted to give you 5 key questions that would really design the decision framework. And these are 5 questions that you as a business owner, a leader, or an HR professional should have answered before you have the conversation with the employee or even schedule the conversation. I like starting off from that perspective. So this framework gives business owners, again, leaders, HR professionals, a moment to pause and acquire the necessary information and make the right and informed decision before you make any decisions that could impact the organization. So first ask yourself, is this capability gap or a conduct issue? So business owners and leaders need to define, is this a skill gap or a conduct issue? This can be critical because skill gaps, for the most part, in our opinion, can be trained. We can always train a person how to be a better accountant, better employee in sales, but sometimes conduct cannot be corrected. So depending on the level of how egregious the conduct could be, this may be something that warrants something more significant, whether it be elevated disciplinary action, or it could be something minor, like Christina, I need you to arrive on time to work Monday through Friday, especially when scheduled in the afternoon, for example. Is this an ongoing pattern? Have there been other occurrences, and have those occurrences been discussed? And do they directly relate with this specific instance? Is it related to the skill gap or the conduct issue? What's the impact? And this is super important to be clear, especially as a business owner or a leader or an HR professional when you're communicating this to the employee. How is this impacting the performance of their work? How is this impacting the performance of the company? Be very specific in this specific question. And were expectations clearly communicated? This is when you think back. Was it written in their job description? Is it specifically clarified in the employee handbook? Was this amplified or explained during your 30, 60, or 90-day check-in? And then zero tolerance comes in. This is the final filter, not a starting point. So super important for you to understand that this is not a shortcut. But if it's something egregious that violates a clear policy, so think an act of violence, theft, that may be very black and white, and in some cases may warrant automatic termination. That being said, this is something that should never be a shortcut. We've spoken to so many leaders and business owners in the past, and we don't want you to wait until it's a zero tolerance moment because by then it's probably too late and you have a liability. But it is there for protection to the rest of the team and, of course, to ensure fairness. Zero tolerance should be rare, defined, and consistently applied. Bold, underline under consistently. It does not mean immediate termination every single time. This is where each situation must be evaluated. It means the issue bypasses informal coaching and enters into formal disciplinary action that's documented process to reduce harm and protect others. For example, let's say an employee is in violation of a code of conduct. For example, maybe they said something inappropriate that they thought would be fine for an employee. That may warrant a final written warning. Again, you're elevating to that zero tolerance mark, but may not require termination at that point. So conversation structures, it's really about both lanes. So whether coaching or corrective action, business owners, leaders, and HR professionals alike should use the same conversation backbone. What does that mean? As in, you're bringing in the facts to the conversation. You're focusing on what details can be specified. Christina, on this specific date, you did not participate in the meeting. You were not on time to the providing the reports, etc. Discuss the impact that behavior is having on the team. That impacted revenue, it's impacting your team's performance, etc. Ensure and align expectations, right? What are they expected to do in this specific form of coaching in this moment? And possibly the most important piece, and I say possibly because it depends on the situation, focus on moving forward and what are the next steps. These conversations should never linger on, well, it's been going on for several days. I'm so frustrated. No, let's focus on this needs to stop, change, what have you, and let's go to next steps. Yes, the structure matters, but next steps is definitely the most important. Must be clear, attainable, and you can even use a tool that we love, which is SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based to deliver these expectations. This simple tool helps me constantly, and it's so handy, I promise. So crafting this conversation in this matter reduces emotion, defensiveness, and misinterpretation because you're sticking to the facts and you yourself are removing the emotion. What we like to come from is from a space of clarity without shame and accountability without cruelty. Now, documentation and consistency, absolutely important. And this isn't about building a file. It's about clarity, again, consistency and fairness, and just ensuring that you have the appropriate amount of information before making a decision. Stick to observable facts again and expectations, not labels or intent. As always, remove vague statements. This is so important for anybody receiving feedback. I'm sure we've been on the other side of this moment where you're told, do better, work harder. What does that mean, right? Give me something specific, measurable, attainable, and do not come up from a place of emotion. Now, I know this, I'm human, we're all human. Sometimes our emotions run high. Make sure before you go into this conversation, you're removing the emotion. Best advice one of my mentors has ever given me in my entire life. Now, you as a business owner, leader, or HR professional should always ask, would we handle this same way for anyone else? Am I presenting any type of unfairness, favoritism before presenting the documentation? And remember, documentation is not punishment. It's about giving that employee clarity so they can return to their role and be successful. So, quick recap. The goal is alignment, the right lane, the right process, and the right tone. When unsure, pause. Don't improvise. This is something super critical that we mention to our clients constantly. Don't wing a conversation. Come prepared and answer all those questions before moving forward. And you will do yourself, obviously, you'll be prepared, confident, and comfortable, but the employee will receive the information well, and you'll be met with a receptive employee, not a defensive one. Reinforce the value of HR partnerships before the conversation, not after the conversation. This is key because they come from a different perspective, soundboard, devil's advocate, which I don't love that term, but just a different perspective. So you can always see both sides and prepare for the questions and or pushback that the employee may have. And if you come from a place of human-centered policy that's backed with standards, you will consistently be met with understanding and hopefully an employee that can be successful in the long run.